Hi, I'm Melissa, and this is the Book Break. And today I'm excited to bring to you a school-age author with a brand new book, and it's Willa of Dark Hollow. So before we bring him in, Robert Beatty, we're going to watch a quick book trailer. Hi, Robert.
Hi, how are you?
I am so good. And I'm excited because I have school-age children and we started reading this book and it's really fun and it's unique. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Oh, sure. Well, it's called Willa of Dark Hollow, and it's about this kind of strange and unusual 13-year-old girl named Willa. And she's actually not human. She is what's called Farron, which is a indigenous race of forest people that live deep in the Smoky Mountains. So she lives in the forest and she has many magical forest powers. For example, her skin isn't white or black or brown. Her skin is actually the color of leaves. And so when she's in the bushes, she's camouflaged. If she goes and stands next to the trunk of a tree, then her skin turns brown and craggy like the bark. And so that's one of her powers. She also speaks the Farron language, which is so old that even the animals of the forest understand her. So her best friends are wolves and bears and things like that. And so the story is about Willa and how she deals with the fact that these industrial loggers are coming into her forest and cutting it down, clear-cutting large areas. And so, she's just this little 13-year-old girl, and she has to try to figure out how to cope with this huge problem.
Yeah. And something I thought was really interesting about this book is it really makes you feel like you're there, but I love that you have a strong female heroine and you have a daughter that kind of gave you the idea for a strong female heroine, right?
That's right. I have three of them, actually. I have three daughters, and my daughters is why I am writing these books. It's why I wrote Willa of Dark Hollow. And so I just wanted to write a story that depicted a young girl, kind of an unusual young girl who is struggling with a lot of big issues and how she handles it. And she has to figure out what is right and what is wrong and what she's going to do about it, and has to fight many challenges. One of the themes of the book is to stay bold, meaning even when you come up against very difficult problems, you have to stay bold in your heart. You have to stay courageous and strong and just keep fighting for what you believe in. So my daughters were the inspiration, but they're also my partners, my creative partners. So we work on the projects together. So they help me write Willa of Dark Hollow. They help me come up with the character ideas and the plot. And then I write the chapters and read them out loud to my daughters, and they provide me feedback. And then I revise the chapters accordingly. So they're part of this big family project.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm curious, what is it about the magical forest world that makes you feel so creative and bring us into this kind of story?
Yeah, so I've just always been enthralled by the idea of a forest and maybe some mist flowing through the forest and waterfalls and the different kinds of animals that live in the forest. And I just think it's a ripe environment for a good story. So, I grew up reading stories like The Hobbit and The Once and Future King and Sword in the Stone, kind of medieval fantasies, right? But they all took place in Europe. And I wanted to write a story that takes place and was inspired by America, and so that the kids of America could relate to it, and it's part of their history and their world today. So that was part of the idea of the creation of Willa of Dark Hollow.
Yeah, that's great. And something I found interesting as well is, so this is the second Willa book, but I hadn't read the first one, and I completely knew what was going on with this one too.
Right. So when I wrote this, I thought, okay, I think on this book, I'm going to get a lot of new readers coming into the series. And so I wrote it as an independent story, such that if you had read my previous book, that's fine, but you don't have to. You can just start right with Willa of Dark Hollow. And I wrote it so that it starts with action right away, so that it sort of grips you and pulls you in and immerses you in Willa's world and in her mind and doesn't let you go.
Yeah, I loved that too. And you have been writing for school-age children for a while, right?
That's right. So the way that started is actually, I used to love reading when I was younger. And when I was about 11, I kind of ran out of books to read in my house, and we didn't have Kindles back then, so we could not download it on the fly. And so my mom said, hey, why don't you get that old typewriter out of the closet and try playing with that? So I put a piece of paper in that typewriter, I typed out chapter 1, and I just started writing my first story. So I wrote my first novel at 11, and just kept writing and improving and developing my craft and my skills. When I became an adult, I started writing books for adults, because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. But then when I had kids, my daughter Camille, when she was about 10 or 11, she said, hey, Dad, can I read the book you're writing? I said, no, it's for adults. It's not appropriate for kids. But she kind of kept pestering me about it. And I one day said, well, I'll try it. I'll try writing a book with a female protagonist about Camille's age, and I'll see how that goes. And I just immediately fell in love with it. As soon as I started writing a book for Camille and her sisters, I realized this was what I was meant to do. And so I was kind of terrified that they wouldn't like the story. So I'm like, hey, Camille, come over. What do you think would be a good story? And so we started working on it together. And then her two sisters joined in, and they still help me today. I'm on my 6th published book now. And by the way, I should say, so I wrote my entire life, wasn't able to get a book published. But once I got my daughters to help me, and I was writing for them in particular, that was my breakthrough novel and became a #1 New York Times bestseller. So
yeah, I love that. And I think that's really fun that you involve your whole family in your process. So your first series was the Serafina series, right?
That's right. Yes.
And now we have Willa. And
That's
this
right.
is, oh, here we go. Here's our awesome covers. These are so fun.
That's right. So we started with Seraphina and the Black Cloak. That was the first book that I wrote for Camille and her sisters. And then we just kept going on from there.
Yeah, that's great. And are your children now older, or are they still school-age girls?
Well, I have 3 daughters, and one's studying engineering and one is studying art. So they're in college, and their youngest sister, who saw her older sisters helping me, she's 9 now. And so she's like, come on, Dad, we got to write the next book. I'm going to do this. Yeah. And so, for example, in the Serafina books, we created the book trailers. And my daughter, Genevieve, actually plays the role of Serafina in the book trailers that you'll see. She in real life has bright red hair, but Serafina does not have red hair, so she has a wig on. But that's my daughter Genevieve, and my youngest daughter Elizabeth saw that, and so by the time she was growing up and could get to the point where she could work with me, she was raring to go. She's like, okay, Dad, what's our story going to be about? And notice it's our story, right? Not my story. It's part her story. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really funny because I have a 9-year-old son as well. And my husband's an author. And yesterday at lunch, we're like, okay, what should we do for a game? We're going to do a story chain. So what did we do? We sit down and outline stories. It's wonderful to bring those kids involved in what you do.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, and one of the things I did not realize at first, because I wrote the stories for my daughters and, there's a girl protagonist, but lots of boys are reading the story as well because it's filled with action and adventure and fighting and magic and all this stuff, and they're getting into it. So I have a lot of boy fans, and I realized in retrospect, not out of some great wisdom, but just in retrospect, I realized how important it is for the boys to see a female protagonist, to see a girl doing heroic things. It's just as important for the boys to see girls in action as it is for the girls to see the girls in action, if you know what I mean, for different reasons. Yeah. But it's important for those boys to see that, girls can hold their own,
Absolutely. I have sons. And so whenever I have my kids look at a book, they're looking at it from that perspective. And they think your book is great too.
No, thank you. That's great.
That's awesome. Well, and you're online, so our viewers can go and find you on your website and social media as well. So we've got your website there, and
that's right.
And you're also on social media. So I think everyone needs to go and check out your website. You've got some really fun stuff, and follow along with what you're doing on social media.
Yeah, we have a lot of pictures and videos and a lot of fun stuff to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. All right.
And to our viewers.
Yeah, thank you. And to our viewers, we will see you next time.
Bye-bye, everybody.